All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Intro to Cybersecurity Social Engineering. I am Tiffany Webb, the Director of Product Marketing and Events here at Flatiron School. We're so excited to have you here and to give you this lesson. I am not a technical person by nature, but we have a wonderful instructor. His name is Pat, and he will be going through today's lesson. I'll introduce him more in a minute, or let him introduce himself. First things first, a little housekeeping. If you just joined, go down to the chat function in the bottom of the screen, choose next to the word to, choose everyone. So if you have questions, we can all see them. I know a lot of times we feel like we're the only person with a question, but normally a lot of people have that same question. So we're here to answer anything that you have on your mind. If you're a little shy, you can always drop the question in the Q&A and we'll get around to those. So yeah, ask questions. It's always fun. Second thing, let's be kind. Let's be kind to your host. Let's be kind to your instructor. Be kind to each other. We're all doing this, and the after hours, whether it's 4 p.m. in LA or midnight in London, we have runs the gamut here. So let's just be kind to one another. It's the holiday season. It's always fun to be kind. So yeah, let's just treat people with a little bit of respect. And third, this is being recorded and will be emailed out to y'all within 48 business hours. So look for it towards the end of the week in your inbox. If somehow you miss it and doesn't get delivered to you, feel free to go to Flatiron School's YouTube channel, and all of our previous events are listed there, as well as this one will be listed there shortly. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the proverbial mic over to Pat O'Connor, who is our instructor for the day. And Pat will talk to you a little bit about social engineering. Over to you, man.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Give me a second. I have a slide deck. I'm going to share my screen here. All right. That
looks good.
The right screen? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I got it.
I've done that before. So, so give me one moment. All right. So today's program will be all about social engineering. And really, that's just the art of human hacking. And I hate to break it to you, today's not actually going to be very technical today. Because it's not technical. Social engineering is not technical at all. It's mostly human. Social engineering is the art of influencing someone's behavior through manipulating their emotions or gaining and betraying their trust. So that's in order to gain access to their system, or gain access to their information. So the attacker preys on human behavior and works to befriend the victim to obtain the information. Now, it's important to remember that social engineering isn't new. It's been around forever. Really, social engineers are just con men. So that, they've used these techniques for years and years and years. It's not just some new thing, that hackers do. It's just techniques that have been adapted to our technical world these days. So, it runs the gamut kind of things that of people that use it. It can be like low-level con men, or countries use these techniques in performing espionage in other countries, and they've used these kind of things for centuries. So that brings us to our next slide. I want to show you a short clip from a movie, and this clip is pretty short, but it has a ton of examples of social engineering. So let's go ahead and start that right now. Oh, wait, I didn't share my screen to where it will.
I can see the video, but I can't hear.
Yeah, you can't hear it. Sorry, I apologize. Can you hear it?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Hello. I'm Frank Black from Monroe High School, and I have an appointment with Mr. Morgan. You're the young man who's writing the article for the school paper.
Yes, ma'am, that's me. I want to know everything there is to know about being a pilot. What airports does Pan Am fly to? What does a pilot make in here, and who tells them where they're going to fly to?
Whoa, so just take them one at a time.
All right. What does it mean when one pilot says to another pilot, what kind of equipment are you on?
I just want to know what kind of aircraft you're flying. Is it a DC-8, 707, Constellation?
And what about those ID badges that I've seen pilots wear?
Well, every pilot has to have two things with him at all times. One is his airline personnel badge, looks just like this one here from Pan Am. The other one is their FAA license, and that looks just like this.
Oh. Do you think I can make a copy of this to put into my article?
Oh, Frank, you can have that one. It's 3 years expired.
Oh, thanks. And what about your ID badge? You have an extra one I could borrow?
Oh, no, I can't help you there. It was a special order from Polaroid. The only way to get one of those is to become a real live pilot for Pan American Airways.
Pan Am, may I help you?
Hello, I'm calling about a uniform.
Hold for purchasing.
Thank you.
Purchasing.
I'm a co-pilot based out of San Francisco. I flew a flight into New York last night, but the problem is I'm headed out to Paris in 3 hours.
How can we help you?
I sent my uniform to be cleaned through the hotel, and I guess they must have lost it.
They lost a uniform. Happens all the time. Go down to the Well-Built Uniform Company at 9th and Broadway. They are uniform supplier. I'll tell Mr. Rosen you're coming.
You look too young to be a pilot.
I'm a co-pilot.
Why so nervous?
How'd you feel if you lost your uniform first week on the job?
Relax. Pan Am's got lots of uniforms. It's going to be $164.
Great. I'll write you a check.
Sorry, no checks, no cash. You'll have to fill in your employee ID number, and then I'll bill Pan Am. I'll take it out in your next paycheck.
Even better. Dear Dad, you always told me that an honest man has nothing to fear, so I'm trying my best not to be afraid. I'm sorry I ran away, but you don't have to worry. I'm gonna get it all back now, Daddy. I promise. I'm gonna get it all back.
Are you a real live pilot?
I sure am, little lady. What's your name?
Celine.
Celine, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you too. That's 50, 70, 80, 90, $100. You have yourself a great time in Paris.
I always do.
Excuse me? I'm John Modica. I manage this branch. I want to thank you for coming in and using our institution.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, John. I'll be back again.
Good. Have you stayed with us before?
No, I've been primarily based on the West Coast. Is it all right if I write you a check for the room?
No problem, sir.
Great. I was also wondering if I could write you a personal check.
For airline personnel, we cash personal checks up to $100. Payroll checks, we cash up to $300.
Did you say $300 for a payroll check? Dear Dad, I've decided to become a pilot for Pan American Airways, the most trusted name in the skies. They have accepted me into their training program and told me that if I work hard, I should earn my wings real soon. Please get in touch with Joanna Carlton from the 10th grade. Tell her I'm sorry that I could not take her to the junior prom. Love, your son, Frank. Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
I have a payroll check here I'd like to cash.
Certainly.
Thank you. Excuse me. I'm sure you hear this all the time, but you have the most beautiful eyes I have ever seen.
Yeah,
do get that all the time. How would you like it?
Okay, so give me 1 second to bring back the slides. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, sorry. Yeah.
I think that's from the, whatever video.
Yeah. So you might be asking yourself why I'm showing a clip about a movie that's shown that's set in the 1960s. Well, it's because Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Frank Abagnale, uses social engineering techniques throughout the movie. Okay. Not only does he social engineer his way into becoming a pilot, he becomes a doctor and a lawyer too. So the movie's based on a true story, actually. And if you haven't seen it, definitely go ahead and watch it. But Frank went on to work for the FBI for 40 years after that. And today he's known as like a fraud and social engineering expert in the cybersecurity industry as well as law enforcement. So here's a quote from Frank. So there is no technology in the world, nor will there ever be, that beats social engineering. And that's really mostly true. No computer is going to catch somebody lying to you. In all those situations, the person handed over whatever he was really asking for. And I'm going to refer back to that, some of those clips throughout this presentation. So let's go ahead and move on. So why do attackers use social engineering? They do it because it's easy. Certainly easier to bypass human nature than multiple layers of technical defenses. And they also do it because it works. By using social engineering techniques, the attacker can dupe victims into giving information using psychological triggers. And it's just easier. Companies these days have firewalls, all different kinds of technical defenses. It's just way easier to get somebody just to give it to you by asking. And that's what we're talking about today. So I have another clip here. Oh,
we're talking.
So this is just asking for passwords. So let's watch this.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It is my dog's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's its name?
Jameson.
Jameson. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hempfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay. Have you had this cat for a while?
Yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Aw. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie. Mm-hmm. So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1?
Like my birthday.
Oh, when is your birthday?
June 12th.
Oh, nice. And what year were you born?
95.
Oh, great. Mm-hmm. So Jolie, 6, 12, 95.
Yes.
Got it.
Gemma. 1, 2, 3. Spelled Gemma.
Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like
so
what? Like what's a good Italian password?
My grandma's name.
What's your grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So as you can see, I mean, that's just a simple clip, but it works and it's easy. So definitely that's why attackers use it. It's way easier to get past a person than technical defenses because the results are predictable. Humans are engineered to respond to certain psychological triggers, and people just want to help normally, but they're trying to help the con artists basically in these situations. So, you might ask yourself, why should you care about this? Well, 90% of data breaches seen by Verizon's data breach investigation team have a phishing or a social engineering component to them. And 91% of cyber attacks start with a phishing email, which is a form of social engineering. And a recent survey of about 70 hackers at DEF CON, well, not that recent, but 2016, found that 84% of respondents use social engineering as a part of their attack strategy. So most attacks use some form of social engineering. They might have some technical, but it's way easier, like I've said several times, to get the information directly from the person, and everyone should care about these things, because it's not only employees of businesses and government employees that are victims, it's everyday people too. And I want to kind of share a personal story here. So this is a story about my grandma. So one day a few years ago, I was doing my job at work and I got a phone call from my grandma. She's in her mid 80s. So needless to say, she's not super tech savvy. So she said someone called her on the phone and was moving the mouse on her computer. And I kind of always knew this day would come, honestly. So I was prepared for it. So I had already had remote control software on her computer that I could get on from anywhere and, hop on her computer. Normally this is just to help her with, random stuff, because she, like I said, she's not computer savvy, but it was great in this situation. So it was locked down. So I was the only one that could use that software. So I hopped on her computer and found that someone was actually on her computer, and they had downloaded and installed software similar to this, very similar to the software that I was using to get on her computer, but theirs was called AnyDesk, which is fairly common. And it was right then that I knew this wasn't going to be good. So I quickly kicked them out, so the attacker didn't have access to her computer anymore. And I told my grandma to unplug the internet router at her house, which she didn't know, and she unplugged several things, but one of them ended up being the internet router. So, but that wasn't over yet. They were on her computer. So my grandma was like distraught and upset, and understandably so. She couldn't really tell me what happened. She just said the person was mean and kept calling her back. She hung up on them, So I called my aunt and told her to call the bank, and I let her deal with that part. I locked everything down, and I took care of all the technical part. And the first thing I checked was her email. I didn't know her password at the time, but my email was her recovery email, so I could get in at any time. So I made sure I set her up with two-factor authentication, reset the password, kicked all access out but myself. And so I knew the attacker wasn't going to get into her email, but I knew they were up to something, and I couldn't really tell from what was on her computer or the email. But I looked in the deleted items, and then there it was. The attacker had spent hours guiding her through setting up a Western Union account on her computer with her email account. So I reset the password to the Western Union account using her email, and logged into that new Western Union account that the attacker guided her through setting up. And right there was where they had guided my grandma through to, she was going to wire, or she had wired already $960 to Bangladesh. Thankfully, that money hadn't been transferred yet. There was a 24-hour waiting period before it would clear, because it was a new account. I can't remember the exact details of why it didn't clear, but Western Union normally has some sort of time that it has to clear on an account. So I was able to cancel it, and that was the good news. So after I got off work, I went over to her house, grabbed the computer, and I called the phone company because she still uses a landline. And I found that they had been on the phone with her for about 5 or 6 hours. So, after looking at her history and, kind of retracing the steps of everything that had happened that day, found that she had clicked on something and it had a pop-up like this, that screams at you. It says, "Oh, Microsoft warning, error, alert." And it'll actually, a lot of people have seen this. where it'll actually, the audio on your computer will start saying, alert, Microsoft, yada, yada, yada. And it'll have you call a number. And she called the number, unfortunately. So she called into their call center and they said, you know, she had problems with her computer, and that was that. You know, they were trying to charge her $960 to fix a fake problem. So really, this person really social engineered my grandma into wiring almost $1,000 across the world. So my point for this is, it's not only companies, not only the government that has to be aware of these things. It's really everyday people too. I'm sure most of you get kind of phishing emails or scam emails in your inbox all the time. Same thing there. So let's talk a little bit about why social engineering works. So people don't understand the value of the information they hold. You know, people are generally focused on helping others, especially in key components of organizations like HR, sales, and call centers. Call centers especially, because, you know, they're there to help. That's their job. But you got to be helping the right person, you know. People are naturally, excuse me, people are naturally conditioned to respond to high-ranking officials, even if that the person calling them is impersonating a high-ranking official. You know, it's just conditioning in human nature. You know, sophisticated attacks, you know, can build trust from multiple seemingly valid sources. So, you know, really sophisticated social engineering attacks might have several times of connecting to a person, you know, by email, phone, in person, different methods of connecting to them. You're building rapport, you know, they build a rapport with the person, and then they can get, you know, then they have them in the palm of their hand, basically. So now there's several psychological triggers that are used in these attacks. And I got a couple quotes from a book here. So, we haven't the time, energy, or capacity to recognize all aspects in each person, event, and situation we encounter. Instead, we must use our rules of thumb to classify things according to a few key features, and then respond mindlessly when one or another of these trigger features is present. So these are authority, social proof, scarcity, liking, containment and consistency, and reciprocity. So these are all triggers that these social engineers use. So let's go ahead and explain some of those. So one of the triggers is authority. So people want to conform to authority figures, basically. You know, somebody might use a telephone call to obtain a forgotten password or other information. You know, there's an example of that in that clip from Catch Me If You Can. So he called the Pan Am Center and asked where he can get a uniform. He's a pilot. The person on the other end of the phone said, "Oh, this is a pilot. They're important for this company." You know, they gave him the information right away. And in person, you know, he was cashing checks. He had the whole uniform and everything. So he had clothing. He falsified the badges. They cashed a check right then and there. They cashed several checks in millions of dollars in the 1960s. So those are just some examples of using authority. You know, a pilot at that time, that age, was a high-ranking position to have. So he certainly used this trigger to con people. So another trigger is social proof. So psychological or social phenomenon where people assume actions of others in an attempt to reflect correct behavior in a given situation. So this one could be herd behavior. If everyone else is doing it, I should do it too, right? That's what people think. So are we having a sound problem? I see somebody mention that.
No, I was just about to type. I didn't hear any sound changes on
Okay, just wanted to make sure everybody can hear me. So thank you. So if a lot of people converge too quickly on a single choice, this trigger is like people thinking, oh, everybody's doing it, it must be right. So it can be utilized by a social engineer by feeding the target information on what you want them to believe is socially acceptable. So the social engineer can use this to convince them, the target, what path he or she desires the target to take. Another one, scarcity. So this refers to the limited availability of a commodity, which may be in demand in the market. So an example of this, and I've seen many attacks use this, especially with phishing emails. You might have seen most people, or the most famous one, the Nigerian prince that has an inheritance, but he needs you to wire so much money. And he'll pay you back because he's going to get so much money on the back end. You only have a limited amount of time to help with that. That's a famous one, but a lot of scams are like this. So the attacker makes people think that availability might be threatened by limited quantity. They might hit a time deadline, or they want to create a feeling that the service is going to be unavailable unless they accept it now. You have to do this now. You can't get it. This is a one-time only deal. That is triggering scarcity. So the target, is rushed into a quick decision. And normally there's something valuable on the end of that, or at least they think so. So liking. So people are more prone to being influenced by things or people they like. People like what's aesthetically pleasing. So a great example of this was when Leonardo DiCaprio is trying to cash the check in Catch Me If You Can. Leonardo DiCaprio is aesthetically pleasing, most people think. So they're not going to tell him no. They like what's familiar. The targets like what's familiar to them. So new things make the majority of people feel uncomfortable, which leads to the target wanting to withdraw from the situation. So something they like makes them feel comfortable. So an attacker can start the conversation with a simple compliment and a question, much like he complimented the bank teller's eyes. That's a great example of this trigger. So commitment and consistency. This is another trigger that's very commonly used. So people have a general desire to appear consistent in their behavior. So if somebody says something, they want to stick to it, no matter if they realize that they're wrong or they were doing the wrong thing. They want to be consistent. That everybody wants to be consistent. It's people are just like that socially. So they want to stand by commitments, and so the attacker will prey on that. So they want to manipulate the victim into committing to something, and then make them force them to stick to that commitment. So an attacker usually tries to get the subject or victim to divulge a small piece of information towards the overall intended goal. And by getting the subject to remain consistent with the things they've already said, the attacker might get the subject to reveal even further information that the subject intended to give. So reciprocation is taking advantage of the human desire to respond in kind to favors. So if somebody does a favor, you want to give them a favor back. So a method of attack is to offer false information to help a user, and that person that you're helping feels obligated to help you back in some way. So that's another way that attackers use this. So there's several phases of social engineering, and first would be to research. and understand the target. The second would be the hook, and that's to make the initial move and start the conversation. And then there's the play. That's to strengthen the information or strengthen the relationship and extract the information. And then the exit. You want to close the attack without creating a scene or making the victim suspicious. And most social engineering attacks follow this, I mean, pretty loosely, but they follow this pattern. So the first thing people that are social engineering others are going to do is start with an internet search, or open source intelligence, as it's known. So they'll look for social media accounts. They'll list interests and connections and begin building a target packet of information about the target. And they'll identify vulnerabilities. So if I was to research someone, you look at their social media accounts, figure out what means a lot to them. And the way that people post on social media these days, you can figure this out pretty easily. Everybody posts everything these days. So it's easy to find out what people care about, what their interests are, who their relatives are. You can use this in a lot of different attacks. So tons of social media, LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a ton of valuable information on it. Find out somebody's position where they work. You can find out where they worked in the past. In tech, especially, you can find out normally if someone's interested in Cisco networking equipment, chances are that the company they work for uses Cisco networking equipment. So definitely LinkedIn is a treasure trove of information for social engineers. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and all that. People just post everything they're interested in, their personal interests. You can prey on that too. You can look at who their relatives are, who they care about. I know if someone were to could use my grandma as an example again. If someone were to call my grandma and say, "Oh, your grandson's in jail. You need to wire $500 to get him out." She might do that, because she cares about me. I've heard of that being a common scam, or someone's in trouble. The power of saying a relative or a loved one is in some sort of trouble. That's extremely powerful in several different ways. So you can also find out just by searching and Googling, news articles and things, and find out information that you can use to social engineer. Blogs, there's all different kinds of sources that people can use. So this is the OSINT framework. And the OSINT framework is a collection of tools that assist in open source intelligence. So let me pull that up real quick here. All right, so these are a bunch of
Just
tools.
so you know, it's not on the screen right now.
Yeah, I was pulling it up.
Okay. Just one.
Yeah, totally fine. Thanks. So these are tools that assist in gathering knowledge about the target and basically stalking the target. And there's some really, really creepy stuff here, to be honest. So search engines that find usernames on sites. Email addresses, reverse email addresses searches, domain names, that's more for companies, but for personal things, different social networks, you can find out all their, social network handles and see what they've been posting. Dating sites, if they're on a dating site, that's actually fairly common that people get scammed that way. Public records, you can find a ton of information from public records, a ton of information, where somebody lives, what properties they own, what they paid for their house. It's common that I get mail in in my mailbox, like snail mail, actual physical mail, saying, "Oh, we want, you to refinance or something," and it has some vague information that I can tell came from the county that I live in. You can get birth records, death records, all different kinds of stuff here. And this is just osintframework.com, and I use this for an example because there's you could spend hours in here finding all different kinds of stuff about people and companies and whatnot. So certainly give this a look. And one thing I'd recommend is searching yourself. See what information you can find on yourself. So after they're done with their research, they're going to do the hook. They're going to have their hook. So they're going to have a plan. They're going to find a common ground or interest in the target. They're going to know the lingo or the jargon. Say they're doing this attack in person and they're going into a company. They're going to know, like the bank, just say you're trying to social engineer a bank, and you go in there and you don't know all the banking terms. You need to know the lingo. You need to know the jargon. You need to look the part and sound the part. So, and people start with small asks that don't arouse suspicion. You don't want to appear out of the ordinary. The attackers don't want to appear out of the ordinary. So they also like to test the waters, see if they can get away with little things before they go for the big thing. So, and when they think the time is right, they go for the play, which is the next step. So the play is when they get what the information or the thing they want. So most employees don't know the value of information they have. This is the hardest part of the execution of the actual attack. So the hardest part of the operation, and if they overplay their hand, they could burn that source. So, this is this strategy is used in even low-level scams, and like I said, governments and spies use these kind of things. So you don't want to burn your source. That is a big no-no, because then you lose all the work you've put into it, and you'll have to do that over again, and you might not be able to. Maybe there's only one person you can get that information from. The attacker needs to know that. So information of interest. So attackers might be looking for email addresses, contact info, devices and applications used, what public systems or data the company accesses, IP addresses, company information, past exposures and intrusions. If I was looking to attack a company, I would want all that info. I would want to know who are the security people, and actually the entire IT department. I'd want their email addresses so I could phish them. I would want to know what devices they use. Like I said earlier, what kind of networking devices they use, what kind of intrusion detection systems they use, what are the technical things, firewall devices they use, what applications do they use, what kind of databases, what's all the tech behind it, because I want to know it, and because I'm going to have to utilize that too. So what are their public IP addresses? This is all, if I was social engineering a company, I would want all that information. That's information that can help me do the technical part. Like I said earlier, like 90% of attacks have some sort of social engineering aspect to them. So this is the kind of information you're going to try and get when you're running the play. When the attackers are running the play. So another thing is you could interview somebody in the IT department and ask them, what kind of cybersecurity attacks have you encountered? If they tell you, they're probably going to be protected against that because they've already experienced it. What haven't they experienced? What haven't they planned for? That's what you're looking for. As an attacker, that's what an attacker is. He's looking for. So, excuse me. So finally, an attacker is going to want to make their exit. So they don't want to end right then. Especially, spies and things, they don't end the conversation right then, because that makes that person stick out. You want to ask for additional irrelevant information. You want to be polite. You want to, you don't want to just say, okay, got what I need. See ya. That's not how the people do things, because that's going to make the target, you're going to stick out to the target. So it needs to be as plain and as you don't want to be memorable, basically. So that's why people try to make a clean exit, and that's why it's a big step in a social engineering attack. So there's several questions good security professionals might ask themselves. So where are my information systems and infrastructure most vulnerable? So what are critical areas where I need to apply available resources to best manage risk? What's the greatest security risk facing in my organization? A lot of this has to do with training your employees not to be social engineering. You can have a ton of different, you can have all the technical applications and hardware in the world meant to protect your company, but the HR person can give out anything if they're social engineered. The accounting department can wire money anywhere in the world if someone social engineers them. So good security professionals ask themselves a lot of questions like this. So I'm going to go over some of the methods that people use for social engineering now. So one's vishing. So I'm going to show another clip of this, so you all don't have to listen to me talk for a minute. And let's watch a vishing attempt.
Is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone. It's phishing.
Do a sample
Connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing?
Use a phone and an internet connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Who are you gonna call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and
Okay.
see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna spoof from your number, so it's gonna look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
At gmail.com?
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
That was wild.
Yeah, I like that example. That I've seen that lady. She's really good at that. Let me close that one so it doesn't talk anymore. So that was an example of phishing. Voice phishing. She accessed that man's it sounded like his cell phone company and got access and made her own access to his account and locked him out of it. That's pretty crazy. So another example is phishing, and that's the same thing, but just over email. Phishing is normally, you're trying to get someone to give their password. So, hey, here's a document that somebody shared with you. Log in to get it, and they try to log in, but It's not really Google they're logging into. It's not really Dropbox, not really Yahoo or Office 365. It's the attacker's website, and the person being attacked just put their username and password into the attacker's website when they thought it was Microsoft Office 365 or Google. That's phishing. So smishing is similar too, but it's just over text. SMS phishing, basically. So an SMS text message and phishing. So also another method of delivery is impersonation and doing this stuff in person, much like Leonardo DiCaprio in the first clip I showed. Any one of these scams can be done in person. So
there's a question in the Q&A. I guess, which browser do you recommend using? I think this was in response to like how to be as safe as possible.
I use Brave, but it really have to be as safe as possible as I would say to be safe, you need to know what you're doing and what you're clicking on, basically. Be able to spot a scam, So to be as safe as possible, knowledge makes you safer. So that's what I'd say. I would say any of the browsers, they all have security features built in. Really, it's the person behind the computer that is, the main target, and the browser's not going to help you with a social engineering attack, basically.
Got it. So thank you.
Yeah. So here's another example. This is people calling the IT support for a company that's a target. So say I was trying to hack a company. I'm calling, the person in this video is going to call a company's IT support and act like they're an employee of the company. So let's watch this one.
Hacker. Some creepy dude in a basement? Well, that hacker and anyone is a social engineer or a people hacker. His craft is to dupe you into doing things and sharing information you probably shouldn't.
Can I just get your credit card number?
Some use it for illegal activity. In David's case, companies pay him to find out if employees are leaving the company vulnerable. He and his team show us how it's done. Step 1, spoof his number so it looks like he's calling from inside the company, and then call tech support.
Hello, you there? Hello?
Hi, this is Ken. How may I help you?
I was wondering if you can take a look at a website I'm trying to get to. It's for a big customer thing I'm working on for Monday, and I can't seem to get to the website from my computer.
Sure. What's the website? I'll see if I can get to it.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate the help. I mean, it could be a stupid thing. I'm really stuck with computers, but so it's www.survey. That's SURVEY -pro.com.
Yeah, I got a prompt to open. I just clicked open, and I'm at the site now.
Here's what the IT guy doesn't realize. By clicking that link, he's just given David full access to his computer.
Whoa, okay, that's weird. I just hit it and it seems like it's working fine now. Awesome. I don't know what you did, man, but I really appreciate the help.
Hey, no problem. That was easy.
That was it?
We're on his computer right now.
You were able to take over this guy's computer within, I would say, like under 2 minutes.
Under 2 minutes, yeah. Under 2 minutes, took over his entire computer, and think of it as not just his computer, but it's pretty much a downfall of the entire company.
In this case, the company was paying David to hack them and see if their employees would fall for it. They did. To show you this demo, we agreed not to use the company's name. Kennedy Hacks to Protect. He's part of a growing number of hackers using this skill for good. Josh Corman's one of them too. He started a group to help bridge the gap between hackers and big companies.
Okay, as you can see, they simplified that on that clip a little bit, but several different ways. They had someone from within the company click a link and a bogus link by posing as someone within the company and got access to somebody from IT support's computer. Now, if you have access to somebody from IT support's computer, generally you're going to have elevated privileges. You're going to have more privileges to do things within the network. So that's why that's important there. So here's an example of a user in need attack. So the attacker sends an email or text message to the victim posing as their boss. And I've seen this one. This is super, super common because you can find out who somebody's boss is from where? Well, LinkedIn, the company's website, and you can act like their boss. You can email them and act like their boss. So the attacker asks the victim to go to the store and purchase gift cards for staff, as a surprise. They're doing that so they won't go to the person next to them and say, hey, our boss is asking me to go buy gift cards. This is weird. No, they cover it up that way. Then the attacker also asks the victim to keep it secret, because it's a surprise. So the attacker instructs the victim to go scratch the coding off the gift card and send a picture of the gift cards numbers so the attacker can redeem these cards. Now, I see somebody had an old coworker that fell for this. This is super common these days. And you can get a lot of, I've seen it, they ask for Google Play gift cards, Apple gift cards, Amazon gift cards, Xbox gift cards even. I've seen, basically any gift cards, this is how they scam. And, it looks like it's coming from their boss, that's coming out of the employee's account, they're going and buying those gift cards with their own money. So I've seen people buy thousands of dollars worth of gift cards and send them away. Really sad, but the person should have known better. Why would somebody have you scratch the backs off the gift cards? So certainly something to be aware of. And they prey on older people, older employees. And this one, authority, that's a trigger. So they think it's their boss. They want to do what their boss asks. That, everybody in a job does. So that's why this one works. It works every day. Attackers get money this way every day. So now I want to talk about some ways you can prevent social engineering, ways the company that you work for and yourself, you can protect yourself. So training and education is a huge one, and employees should be trained in, they're not just the IT people, but every employee within a company needs to be trained on how to avoid these kind of attacks. There needs to be a set up way to report these things to the IT department, more specifically to the security department, if there is one, and the IT or the security team needs an incident response plan and how to mitigate these kind of attacks. Tests and pen tests or exercises are definitely a great tool. This is actually paying someone to social engineer or hack your company. Somebody that is going to test your defenses, and a lot of times these have a social engineering aspect too. If you have employees that can't spot one of these attacks in email or in person, that's a great way, for a pen tester to get through and prove that your defenses need work. So another way is spam control or technical controls on your email system. Most of the time this is meant to filter out spam, but it also can, reduce the number of attack emails and phishing emails. Now I say reduce. The attackers have the advantage that they're able to create a new email every day, a new email every minute if they want. But spam filters and filters on emails can help reduce the amount of attacks that your users see. Also, phishing your own users. So train them on what they did wrong. And, I, in my previous position, I like to reward them if they, don't fall for these attacks that I would send out. So let me show you, this is a program I've used in the past. And this is how you can phish your own users in your company.
This video will show you how to set up a phishing test in under a minute using your KnowBe4 platform.
Phishing your users will give you an idea of what your organization's current phish prone percentage is, or how vulnerable you are to a phishing attack. Our wide variety of phishing templates will test your users on if they'll click a link, open an attachment, or reply to a phishing email. And because we can send random templates out to each user and also randomize when those templates will be sent, you won't have users warning each other about the test taking place. If you're ready to go, let's start the clock. We're going to name it Monthly Phishing Test. And I want to phish all of my users with this test. And like the name suggests, I would like it to go out monthly. And we'll have it start this Monday. And because I want to use several template types and I don't want users to warn each other about the test taking place, I'm going to select to spread the emails out over a few days. I also want to track any failures on this phishing test for at least 3 days. And for this monthly campaign, I want to choose a wide variety of phishing templates by selecting several categories that I like. Lastly, for my landing page, I have lots of options here, but for my monthly phishing test, I want to do some point of failure training, so I'll select the Social Engineering Indicators landing page. This one will show the users what red flags they should have noticed on the simulated phishing email they received. And then you're done. I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek at how easy it is to set up a phishing campaign in the KnowBe4 platform. If you're not yet a KnowBe4 customer, reach out to us and request a full demo.
Okay, so they show you how you set this up. So you don't, as a security engineer in a company, you don't have to research your employees and do all this. There's easy ways to do phishing tests on your users to make sure they know how to spot these, and training programs that are built into those to train them up on what they did wrong and what how they can protect themselves in the future. Also, as far as social engineering is concerned, protection and physical security. You know, you shouldn't let people in the building, obviously. You know, having a front desk, people that aren't authorized to be in the building shouldn't be in the building. So that really helps cut that down. So in conclusion, you know, social engineering is very dangerous, and a very dangerous threat vector that companies and individuals can face. It requires training, education, and policy and technical solutions in a holistic program. So awareness, pen tests, validation exercises, those are all helpful in exercising social engineering countermeasures. And defenses against social engineering must be focused on behaviors. So security audits should include a social engineering attack, a simulated one, to validate that training that users receive. And, you know, this is a growth area for threat vectors via social media. And the only way to defend against it is to execute awareness. You know, users need to be trained and validated, you know, through exercises like that one I showed you. So I like to end this one with this little cartoon here. So, you know, in this corner, we have firewalls, encryption, antivirus software, etc. And then in this corner, we have Dave, which is human error. So human error, you know, your company, the company that you work for in your career is only as secure as the least trained individual. So think about the least tech savvy person at the company you work for. That's the safest you are. So you're only as safe as the weakest link there. So do we have any questions?
Yeah, thank you so much, Pat. That was so informative. Ian asked, so it's a personal account. So lately I have been getting a lot of unfamiliar out-of-state phone calls. I know we all have been. They've been on the uptick. Sometimes I miss the calls, and when I call the numbers, it usually says the number you call is no longer in use. How do they use unlisted or unused phone numbers to call people? Is this considered spoofing?
Yes, they could spoof the number. They could get a block of phone numbers. There's many different ways they can do that, actually. And a lot of times, you know, you'll get pre-recorded messages. Oh, this is a Social Security Administration, or you know,
I get those all the time.
Familiar with those spam calls? Don't call them back. That's my best advice to that. Yeah, they probably spoof the number, or they have a block of phone numbers. Like I said, it's a scam, basically.
If anyone else has a question, please feel free to put it in the chat or Q&A function. and we can get around to those. If I open an email, can it give me malware just by opening the email?
Yes, yes. Normally, to get malware on the computer, you need to get the user to click on something and execute it, normally. But yeah, if you're unsure about an email, do not open it. I wouldn't open any email, especially an attachment or a link. The attachment or the link is the main part that you don't, if you're unsure about an attachment or a link, do not click on them. What I would do is email the person or call them on the phone with a known, don't ever, if you're unsure about an email, don't hit the reply and ask them if it's legit. Call them on the phone with a number that you know, not something you get out of the email, because that might be an attacker. They're going to put a phone number to the attacker in the email. So if you receive an email saying, hey, I need you to wire money, you want to call the person that's sending you that email on the phone with a number that you've called them on before or something like that. And, if they're sending in a link or an attachment, do not open those if you're unsure of the source or of the content,
Kimberly asked, what kind of training do you need to become a pen tester?
Generally, most people start out with blue team, which is the defense side. So really to be a pen tester, you need to know the defenses in order to attack them and see the weak spots in them. So I would say most people start out with more the defensive side and then work their way into the red team side, which is the offensive side, the pen testing side. People get into it in a variety of different ways. I've seen people like that lady in the video that really just do social engineering kind of stuff and get into it that way and don't really do that much of a technical side of it. They know the basics, but there's several different ways. And to get into red team things, though, you really need to, I would suggest getting into just into security in general and then specializing in that, I would say.
Got it. And speaking of that woman, someone asked, how was she able to spoof from the man's phone number when she locked him out? Like she just, from the video I saw, she just was pretty convincing actress,
That I think that they spoofed the guy in that third video spoofed the number. I don't think she did, the lady that called the phone company. But there are ways, just like you can spoof an email. It's too technical for me to get into right now, but you can certainly fake any phone number. You can fake any email address and make it look convincing. That caller ID there, you can make your phone number look like any phone number you want. It doesn't actually have to be the phone number you're calling from. And there's several tools that allow you to do that.
Someone asked, what is the job market for pen testers and Fisher hunters?
So that's a smaller section of the security engineering or security industry as a whole. I'm not exactly sure the percentage, but most people do the defensive work. A vast majority, I would probably say at least 80%, probably more, are more on the defensive side. The red team, kind of the cool, the pen testing side and social engineering, the people that do this professionally, that's a small section of actually the people in the industry. I'd probably say, and this is me guessing off the top of my head, so I don't have an exact figure, but I'd say 10 to 15% are the actual on the attack side of people in total out of the industry.
Got it. Anne asked, isn't two-factor authentication a big help in terms of security?
I would recommend that anywhere it's offered.
Perfect.
Because let me explain that real quick, because that is awfully important. a lot of times people use the same password for everything. And if you use the same password for everything, I saw, years ago, I think, probably about 8 years ago, LinkedIn got hacked. The company LinkedIn got hacked, and everyone's password was leaked out on the internet. So people that use that password at other sites, you could just get into their account because they use the same password. Famously, our former president used "you're fired" as his password on that LinkedIn attack, and someone was able to get into his Twitter account.
Wow.
So,
someone asked, I don't see you on LinkedIn. Is that intentional?
I'm on LinkedIn. I don't have a ton of information on there, but yes, I'm on LinkedIn.
So Helly asked, how do you get technical hands-on experience as a cybersecurity beginner? Any websites for online practice or practice labs?
Well, you attend Flatiron School, of course, but
Yeah, we do offer some free courses. I'll put that in the chat, but I'll let you keep talking.
Oh, and I forgot to complete my thought a second ago. If you have two-factor authentication on, it doesn't matter if someone has your password. They still need your cell phone in order to log into your account. Sorry, I didn't finish that up. And then what was that second question? Sorry.
I think it was, no, you answered it about your LinkedIn. That was the second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let me see. Someone asked, can you spoof, Sway asked, can you spoof a number for authentication in order to access someone's social media account?
Could you repeat that again? Sorry.
Can you spoof a number, I guess a phone number, for authentication in order to access someone's social media account?
Yes, but it's called SIM swapping, and it's not easy to do. And really, you'd have to call the phone company in order to do that. So really, if that happens, it's more like governments attacking something. Yeah, that's a very, very, very involved thing to do.
Well, we're already
basically you'd need to call the phone company and have them do that, or make like basically another SIM card for you.
Someone asked, can you rebound check an IP address? Or sorry, no. Can you rebound check an IP address is what I got.
Yeah, they'd have to elaborate on that.
Yeah. Well, we're a little bit over already. If there's no more questions, I would like to go backwards to try and find the source of the hack. So I guess that's in terms of
that really kind of depends on the situation. I'd kind of need details. Really, you'd have to look at logs. Logs are the key to everything. And if companies have the proper logging things set up, you can figure that out.
Got it. Well, thank you so much, Pat. I think this was so interesting, kind of scary, but interesting and informative. And thank you all for spending your evening and some of you your morning with us. Please be on the lookout for an email from us within 48 business hours with the recording and the deck for you. And I hope you all have a lovely evening. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thanks for attending.